Hey guys, it's me, Michael, with Blurry Pixel. And I wanted to give you guys another demo of the invaluable relighting features of the upcoming Pixel Cloud plugin. Now these features allow you to take an already rendered image from a 3D program and add lighting effects, such as diffuse shading, specularity, and reflection. Now, to get started, I generated 3 essential passes from my 3D program: a source image, a position pass, and a normal pass. These images will vary from program to program, but there are tons of information out there, and as long as you are using a feature-rich 3D package, you should be able to generate these passes as well. Okay, so besides these passes, I'll also need to import the shot camera information, including the transform and focal length. There are various integration methods for bringing in camera information for After Effects. You can also simply write down this information from your 3D program and input it manually when you're in After Effects. Okay, so after importing my passes, I'll first make sure we are working in 32-bit mode. And I'll also set the Preserve RGB option for the position and normal passes. Since these passes are being used for their floating point data, we don't want any color management applied to these images at all. So for the position pass, I'll right-click it in the project panel, interpret footage, and select Preserve RGB under the Color Management tab. And I'll do the same thing for the normal pass. Afterwards, I'll create a composition that matches the dimensions of all my images. I can do that by just selecting all 3 passes and dragging them down into a composition. And I'll name each layer appropriately to how they're going to be used. So I'll name my source pass source, my position pass position, and my normal pass normal. And since they'll just be used for our Pixel Cloud effect, we can also turn off the visibility on all 3 layers. Now I'll import or create the rendering camera. In this case, I've imported the camera and I can just copy and paste it into my composition. And I'll rename that Shot Cam. Afterwards, I'll create a blank solid that matches the dimensions of the composition, make it black, and apply the Pixel Cloud plugin from Effect, Blurry Pixel, Pixel Cloud. Now before I do anything in the Pixel Cloud effect panel, I'll need to create a reference camera. So I'll go down to my shot cam, select that, duplicate it, rename the duplicate ref cam, and move that down to the bottom of the layer stack. Move my Pixel Cloud layer here, and I'll rename that actually Pixel Cloud. Now I can go back into the effect panel and set my reference camera by clicking the Link Reference Camera button, choosing my camera from the drop-down list, hitting OK. Now we can set our passes. So I'll go back up to where it says Source Layer, choose Source. For Position Pass, choose Position, and our Normal Pass, choose Normal. Now, because After Effects coordinate system differs from most 3D packages, I need to make an adjustment. Because I used Maya as my 3D program, I'll need to go under Position Pass Adjustment and select Invert Y and Invert Z to True, and do the same for our Normal Pass Adjustment. Invert Z and Invert Y. Now I can see the Pixel Cloud properly, and it should match up exactly with the source image. However, if you do see some gaps between the pixels, it could be caused by invisible noise in your position pass. That's still okay. Later on, we can change the render mode to the 2D Relight mode, which is a special mode that can clean up those kind of issues. Okay, so now that we have our pixel cloud, we can start relighting it. I'll first create a new light in here, a point light, leave the color white and the intensity at 100. Okay, because I can't see the light in my viewer window, I'll need to position it numerically. But before that, I need to get a good coordinate to place it at. So I'll temporarily solo the position pass and hover my cursor over an area in the image and take a look at the RGB values will give me the XYZ coordinates. Here we have for red 0.58, for green 3.8, and for blue negative 0.93. I'll write those coordinates down, remembering that I've already inverted the y and z axes. Therefore, the XYZ coordinates should be 0.58, negative 3.8, and positive 0.93. So I'll input those coordinates for my point light and go back to my pixel cloud and turn off the visibility in my position pass. I should be able to now see my point light in the viewer window. And there it is right there, and I can use the manipulators in the viewer window to position my light around the pixel cloud. So move it around here. Actually, I'll use the numerical sliders here, and I'll position it up here and to the right. And you know, I think I'll duplicate the shot cam here and rename that scratch cam so that I can use that to preview my pixel cloud and to make sure that the light is in the right place. And for now, I'll just use a point of interest, and I'll copy the position past there and move the position here. And another thing I can do to speed things up is to go back into my pixel cloud panel and switch the render mode to something like half or quarter. So now I should be able to move around in the viewer window a little bit faster. I'll actually position that point around the light and remove the rotation there, and so I should be able to move around. There we go, using my my scratch cam here. Okay, so here is my light, and I can move that around until it looks pretty normal to me. Let me move that here. Great, and so if I need to return to my normal view, I can just turn the scratch cam off and it just pops in right there. And whenever I need to render, I can just go back to the render mode and switch that back to the appropriate setting. So for instance, if I was ready to render, I can just go into render mode and change it to 2D Relight, which I mentioned before, which is a special mode which basically relights your image without changing the position of your pixels, and it should pretty much match up with your source layer when viewed in the default mode through the reference camera. So with this 2D Relight mode, the quality of the image remains faithful to the quality of the source image, and we can switch back and forth between this mode and one of the 3D modes to refine our lighting setup. Alright, so right now I'll tweak our light a little bit. I'll open the light options here, and under fall off I will enable it to smooth, and then for the moment change radius to 0 and fall off distance to 0. Our light goes black, so I'll need to gradually increase the radius until I start seeing the edge of the fall off. So in my timeline, I'll get those options for the light and slowly increase the radius until I start seeing the image. And then I'll increase the fall off distance to feather that a little bit. And I'll change the color of the light to something like a slightly red pinkish color. And I'll continue tweaking the setup. I'll reduce the intensity of the light to say 85, or actually 80. I'll add another light. In this case, it'll be an ambient light, which affects the whole lighting of the model, and that will light everything up, especially the diffuse shadows here. And I'll tint that to say a little bit blue, more gray. There we go. And reduce the intensity to say 10. And then I'll add another light again. In this case, it's going to be a parallel light. Change the color back to white and disable the fall off. Again, I'll need to move that into the viewer, so I'll copy that into there, change the position to there, copy the position from our previous light in there, as well as a point of interest. Alright, and it's just basically tweaking everything. And while I'm doing all that, I'm constantly moving the camera around to make sure that the lighting is what I'm expecting. Okay, so I'm kind of liking the way I've lit this now. I can switch back, go back into my pixel cloud layer here, and change the render mode to 2D Relight. And you can see the difference between unrelit to being relit. And if I was done with that, I could go ahead and render it like this. But that's not all I want to show you right now. I also want to show you how we can use an image as a light. So I'm going to go ahead and import this high dynamic range image here. And I'll drag that into our composition. And I'll turn off the visibility, and as well as all our previous lights that we've made before, since I want to show you how this image can be used without those lights. And under image-based light, choose our imported image. Now the image is being lit by this environment map that is wrapped around an infinitely large sphere that encloses our pixel cloud. It's sort of like a reflection map, but without an angle of reflection. It's too sharp right now. So what I'll need to do is go back into our high dynamic range image and pre-comp that, and call that pre-comp HDR comp. Go back into that, go into that composition, and then apply, say, a fast blur to everything. Okay, and because I don't want it too bright, I'll also bring the gamma on that down a little bit. There we go. And go back to our pixel cloud there, pixel cloud composition. And oh yeah, so one of the deals here is that our normal map is a little bit too sharp, which is why we see this sort of jaggedy and aliasing problem. So What I can do is go to our normal layer and then pre-comp that, leave all attributes, and say call that normal comp, jump into that normal comp, and then apply as well another fast blur to that, say very slightly, maybe a 2. Go back into our composition and nope, actually should be higher. Let's say maybe get 8 or 4. And I can also enable some of those lights that we used previously to sort of bring out a little bit more detail here. And if we go back here to our regular mode, I can move around and see how that's affecting our pixel cloud. Under IBL options, I can reduce the intensity with which our image shines onto our pixel cloud, so we can still get the effect, but a little mitigated. Okay, so going back into our 2D Relight mode, I see that I really don't want that image-based lighting right now, so I'll set that back to none. And instead of an image-based light, I really want more of a reflection. So go back here on my pixel cloud panel, and under reflection map, I'll choose that layer, that same image layer, and under reflection map options, I'll tone down the strength of the reflection down to say 30 or so. 35. Yeah, 30. And so right away you get to see the effect of more of a reflective material type of thing going on. I can try turning off the specularity or turning off the diffuse to see what the difference that makes. I can turn off certain lights to see how the reflection works there, and so I'll turn off the ambient light here, which I don't really want right now. As regards to this reflection, it's not really a ray traced reflection like most 3D programs. It's also an environment map like the image-based light. So if I switch back to our default render mode to like the half mode or default render mode, we can move around with the our scratch cam and see that we still get that dynamic shading from the environment map. There are also some other options here, including a reflection mask, which can be used to vary the effect of the reflection over the image. So going back to our 2D Relight mode, I can, and if I shut down that scratch cam here, I can move our lights around and animate it here, so I can kind of show you a little bit of how easy it is to make these kind of changes. So that's just a little bit of how we can relight an image with the Pixel Cloud. It's a plugin that was built with several controllable parameters for varying the lighting model, giving you the maximum flexibility and capability. So thanks for watching. I'm Michael with Blurry Pixel.